with you today. And I want to give you a little background, I think. You know, you may or may not have heard of me. I've been teaching in this field, the same field that you know Bob in, since 1981. There's really a handful of us in the world who have been teaching this long. Bob is the premier teacher on our planet in transformation. I don't know anyone else, including myself, who's been doing this for decades, who would not agree with me that Bob is the premier teacher in the world stage of transformation. And so you're in the best place there is to be in studying with him and having him as your mentor. I met Bob in the middle 90s. My work had grown, and it was a woman who was in my attending the work I was doing. He kept saying, there's this amazing man. He comes to town to speak every few months. And you've got to meet him, Mary. And I was busy, and meanwhile, she was telling Bob, because she was in his work, that every time he came to town, there's this woman, you got to meet her, and he was busy as well. And finally, she every time was, getting more and more persistent. So finally, we agreed that we would meet with her and have breakfast. And he will say this, and I say this. We kind of did it to get her off our back. However, when we sat down together at that breakfast, within 5 or 10 minutes, we could tell that we had each been studying the same kind of transformational work from a little bit different angle, and we had so much connection, and so we began to be friends. And so we've been friends for a very long time now, and we've supported each other in challenging the edges of our own knowing, and then going deeper into the study and revealing more and more that we could bring to others. So I'll tell you a personal story. I went through a very difficult time in the early 2000s. And it was 2004, I think. I was meeting with Bob for breakfast at the Marriott at LAX. And I was beginning to build a new work and really coming out of a very tough time. And a divorce, and that husband had done some embezzling, and it was just a very dark, difficult time for me. And I was climbing myself back to a new life, a new work. And Bob and I were sitting talking, and he says, you need to read Science of Getting Rich. I said, I've read Science of Getting Rich. I mean, I've got it on my shelf. I read it at least twice. He said, well, you don't know it. You might have read it, but you don't know it. I said, really? He said, well, I can tell by the way you're talking. You're talking way too much from circumstance. You're talking way too much about the conditions. You might know about this, but you don't know it. And I said, okay, well, thank you. What would you recommend I do? And so he said, read it once through with a beginner's mind. Read it as if you've never read it before. Get really curious about what it says in there. I know you're in the Science of Getting Rich right now in your study with Bob. So read it like it's just brand new material to you. And over the years, I will share this with you, maybe after a decade or 15 years of study, I one day realized, there's a vast difference between knowing about and knowing. We all know about more things than we're currently manifesting. We probably all know that the universe is abundance itself, and that there's no lack or limitation in the infinite. And yet we bump up against the edges of our own demonstration of that awareness. So there's a vast difference between knowing about truth and knowing the truth, knowing about these principles and these laws and knowing them. And I realized that when I move it from knowing about into knowing, my life bears witness to it. My life is a perfect reflection of that knowing. And until then, it's just something I know about. Rather humbling to come to that revelation. And yet here I am in 2004 telling my friend Bob Proctor that I think Science of Getting Rich. And he says, no, you don't. I can tell you don't know it because you might know about it, but you don't know it. So read it one time with a beginner's mind, and then read chapters 4, 7, 11, and 14. And he gave me the assignment of studying those 4 chapters every single day for 90 days. And with a caveat, to make an agreement that if I missed one day, that I had to go back and start the 90 days over again. I thought that would be simple. I said, well, sure, I will do that. And thank you for helping me see a place in me where I'm not aware enough to know that I don't really know this well. And so I began the process. About day 57, somewhere right in that arena, a day went by. And I had read diligently. I decided I would read 2 chapters in the morning and 2 chapters at night. And the rhythm of my life, that worked well. And about day 57 came and went. And day 58, about midday, all of a sudden I went, oh my gosh, I didn't read yesterday. And it wasn't like I had thought about reading and put it off and thought I would do it later and then didn't get to it. It never once occurred to me to read that day. And I began to realize and have a new respect for the power of paradigms. After 50 some days of bringing this new, installing basically a new operating system in me, a new, more liberal making awareness. See, our operating system is really yours and my awareness is our operating system. Our awareness is our understanding about who we are and how it works in the universe or in the infinite. Hence, the study that you're doing with Bob is so critical to the growing of your awareness. And the growing of your awareness is the key to allowing yourself to have everything you would love to have, be what you would love to do, give what you would love to give in this world. So he was helping me grow my awareness. Did I want to start all over again after 57 days? No. Did the thought, well, who's going to know occur? And I've learned every time the thought, who's going to know, occurs to me to say back, the most important person in the universe is going to know, I'm going to know. And so I realized that I needed to have better structures of support. As I was just about probably to break out of an old paradigm into a new realization, my paradigm just shut me down. Just made sure I didn't think about it that day. It got me distracted. And so I thought, all right, I'm going to have some help overriding that. So I what I did simply was create sticky notes. I put sticky notes on the places that I know that I'm going to bump into myself during the day. On the mirror where I brush my teeth several times a day. Well, I put one on my laptop, because I'm going to be on my laptop pretty much every day. I put one on the lamp where I turn off the light at night, just before I go to sleep. And I began again. So it took me just around 6 months, really, to get all of those pages read consecutively for 90 days. And then I made that commitment that I was going to do that over the course of the next 5 years, which I did. And over today, this book is one of the handbooks that I live by and teach with myself. So I'm thrilled to come today and share with you what that's meant in my life. So let's take a deep breath together. And know this, that you didn't create yourself. You can't even breathe yourself one time under your own power. That there is a presence, there's a power, there's a life that moves into and through each one of us, seeking ever freer, fuller expression and experience of itself by means of itself. So this is a blessed day, that this every single day will give not just another day of our life, the one day of our life, this one, non-refundable. You'll never have it again. And I want you to know how much respect I have for you to be enrolled in this program with Bob Proctor. There's not a better place you could be to study at the hem of the garment of someone who knows the most on our planet right now about transformation. To really be able to listen again and again to the not just the words, but the meanings that he impresses in the way that he teaches. So here we are in this blessed day, this once in a lifetime, unrepeatable, irreplaceable, never to happen again in eternity day. And you are devoting a portion of this day to the study of awareness, to the study of improving your ability to unlock the power that's in you for greater purposes, for greater significance, in all the ways that matter to you. Right now, you have results in your life. Those results are the effect of the major dominant vibration that you think and act from. In other words, your operating system. And we can install a new operating system in a computer in a couple of hours. It takes longer in us. It takes more repetition, more impact for us to install a general new operating system. But doing what you're doing by studying with Bob is that you're installing a more liberal making, a more freedom making paradigm, operating system, organized pattern that you operate your life from. So take a deep breath with me. The number one skill set for those of us that are growing our awareness is this one. Notice what you're noticing. So for a moment, let's exercise that noticing capability. Right now, notice the feeling of your shoes on your feet, if you have shoes on your feet, or the air on your bare feet, if you're barefooted. Notice the feeling of your shoes on your feet. Notice the feeling of the carpet or the wood or the grass or wherever your feet are touching the ground. Notice the ground touching your feet. Notice all 10 tips of your 10 toes. Notice your ankles and your calves and your knees and your thighs and your bottom and your belly and your torso, up the front and up the back, across your shoulders, down your upper arms, your elbows, your forearms, your wrists, right through the palms of your hand to the 10 tips of your fingers. Notice your body. Notice your neck, up the back of the head. Notice your cheeks, your chin. Notice the tip of your nose, the center of your forehead, the top of your head. Notice your body. Notice your breathing. Notice that you can notice your body. Now, notice your thoughts. Notice what you're thinking. You might have been thinking, I'm disappointed this Bob's not here. You might have been thinking, this is interesting. You might have been thinking, this is boring. It doesn't matter. Don't judge your thoughts. There's a zillion of them going on our class today. But notice your thoughts. Notice what you've been thinking. Just notice it. And now notice what you've been feeling. Notice your emotion. Whether you've been feeling contented, whether you've been feeling anxious, worried, concerned, thrilled. It doesn't matter, calm. Whatever you've been feeling, just notice it. And notice that you can notice your body, your thoughts, and your emotions. All of those together create a vibration. That vibration is communing and communicating with the infinite that is everywhere present. There is a thinking stuff that penetrates, permeates, and fills the inner spaces of this universe. And you and I are communing and communicating with this. Call it spirit, call it, Wallace calls it the thinking stuff, this energy. And that vibration dictates by spiritual law the results. First, the ones that we will experience in our body. If we're feeling anxious, we've been on a vibration that generates an emotional state called anxiety. And the gift of noticing what you're noticing is you can start to notice whether the thoughts you're thinking are expansive or contractive. Whether expansive thoughts are going to lead you into expansive results, and contractive thoughts are going to lead you into contractive results. It's spiritual law, and it works perfectly. Neither Bob nor I can make it work your way. We can't even make it work our way. We've just spent a long time studying how it works so that we can work with it the way it works. Every single one of us, if you have light in the house you live in or the office you're listening from, your place of existence was wired to the code of how electricity flows, how the molecules that generate across filaments, what we call luminescence. Just over 100 years ago, we didn't understand that code. And so for thousands of years, humans, you and I, our species, lived in dark after the sun went down, or we had to have an oil lamp or a fire. It's the only way we had illumination after dark. And then one man made a decision, having had some experiences in understanding through telegraph, that there is a way molecules move. He had no idea how to do this, but he wrote in his journal, I shall discover and deliver for the world a system of illumination that will completely eliminate our current requirement on oil lamp illumination. And he began to go to work on it. Arguably the most prolific inventor ever in human history. But he understood that there are invisible laws that govern the visible results that we have in our experience. And he knew that laws are immutable and they are eternal and they work everywhere the same way, in the same way that electricity ultimately works the same in Seattle and Stockholm and Shanghai. The same law applies, and the same law of transformation, or how things occur, is everywhere. So again, we take a moment to notice our bodies, to take a moment to notice our thoughts, take a moment to notice our own emotions, and then to notice that, who is it in me? Ask yourself this question. Who is it in me that can notice my body, but is more than my body? In fact, if I lose a hand, I don't say I lost me or I lost me. We say I lost my hand. I lost a piece of my equipment. I am still whole. Who is it in me that can notice my body, but is more than my body? Who is it in me that can notice my thoughts, but can actually notice the thoughts and decide to make a thought more important or toss it away? So that thought doesn't belong to me. Who is that? Who is that in you who can notice your emotion and decide to make something way upsetting and way big and problematic, or decide, you know what, I'll think about that later? I'm going to let this become a simple thing. Who is that? That is the real you. And Bob has taught over many, many years that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. You have a human experience, but you are far more than that. Now, the way we are, so for a moment, just allow yourself to feel how good that feels to know that. And that you can make a decision to turn up the amount of your noticing. You can actually notice more often what you're noticing. And notice that you're noticing what you're noticing. That is, until we do that, no one's at home with their hand on the helm of our own thinking. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, every one of us must learn to stand guard at the portal of our own thinking. Because as thoughts pour through us, they are transacting and interacting with the infinite side of our nature, and that reverb or mirroring comes back to us in the land of form called our results. So we want to be on frequencies that are harmonious with the visions we're holding for our life. Today, you and I have results in our lives, and the way spirit works through a human is producing results in 4 areas of life. The first is in our health. We can measure your results right now. We can take your blood pressure and blood tests and all these different things, weight, height, and give you a report on your health. That would be an effect of what's been going on in the invisible side of your nature regarding your health. You have relationship results right now. Some of you are absolutely in love with your relationship results. Others of you, there's a piece in there. There's something in there you would love to transform. You're studying transformation. You would love to apply those principles to the transformation of the landscape of your own relationship results. Maybe have that love of your life. Or maybe go deeper with the one you're with, or somebody that you have a meaningful relationship. Maybe some of you would love to have certain colleagues who could bring in different dimensions of the work you either are doing or want to do. Some of you may have disconnect or discord with either parents or a child, a good friend, and you'd love to have that healed. So we just look at our results in our health, notice what parts we're in love with and what parts we'd like to transform. We look at our results in our relationships, the parts we're absolutely in love with and the parts we'd like to transform. We take a look at the world or the body of our work, our vocation, and what's going on with what you do with your time and talent. Whether you earn income doing it or not, you do something with your time and talent. Do you love what you're doing? Does it bring you alive to do it, or do you feel like you have to check your soul at the door of the building you walk into or the work that you do because you're simply trading your time for money? Studying with Bob is going to help you transform any area of life you want to transform, but you're not going to transform something you're not aware you want to transform. So today, as we focus together, we have current results, health, relationship, what's going on with our vocation. For some of us, we've been wanting to get that book done. We've been wanting to start this business. We've been wanting to sell that business or shift that business. We've been wanting to, what is it you would love in the area of vocation? Notice that the question isn't what do you think you can have? Because the only place you can go when you ask the question, what do I think I can have, is to the land of current results or your history, paradigms. But when you ask the question, what would I love? It moves you to a new frequency. What would I love in my health? What would I love in my relationships? What would I love in my vocation? And the last one is time and money freedom. You have current results in time, how much time freedom you have, and you have current results right now in how much money freedom you have. Are you in love with that area of your life? How much time freedom or money freedom? You may be a person who has way more money than free time, or you may be a person who has way more free time than money. But what if you could have it be what you would really love in that area of life? So the power of one of the gifts you and I have been given that we study about in the 6 mental faculties that's on your document page in the Science of Getting Rich is imagination. Our image-making capability is God-like. It's been given unto us. If you have ever read the Christian Bible, in Genesis, it says, in the beginning was the void. And God looked upon the void and said, let there be a universe. Let there be the earth. Let there be, it will separate the day and the night. Let there be animals and things of the air and things of the water. And let us create humans. And let us create those humans in our likeness and after our image, and imbue in them these same capabilities, and give them dominion over all things heaven and all things earth. So all things heaven are everything inside of you that's invisible, the kingdom of heaven, invisible in you. It's your contact with the infinite side of your nature. We do that through the vibration of the thoughts we're thinking. So when you notice what you're noticing, you can make sure that those thoughts are on the frequency of the vision you're holding in those 4 areas of what you would love your life to be like. And you systematically remove your attention from the power of conditions and place it on the power of the vision. And when I was sitting with Bob, those 15 years ago, this year, 15 years ago, I had no idea what the real study of this work, this is after I'd been teaching for many years, but Bob knew that if I really did this piece, it was going to completely revolutionize my ability to translate my visions into my results. And he's absolutely right. So as you're studying with him in this amazing work, know that there's not one thing you could long for. There's not one thing you could be dreaming of. That as you do exactly what he's telling you to do, you will absolutely open the door to your ability in spirit to reach right into that rich kingdom of all that's possible and translate that. But you have to have a picture in your mind of what you want your results to be like. In Genesis, it didn't say, and the infinite looked upon the void and said, well, let's just see what happens. Let's just see what comes up. No, it had a very clear image. Spirit speaks through images. The mind thinks in pictures, as you've heard Bob say. So you want to have, and I would suspect in a class like this that most of you have already generated a really clear, coherent vision of your life a year from now or 3 years from now, so that you can enter into the spirit, which is what we're studying, entering into the spirit of being the person who's living that life, even before the circumstances yet have rearranged themselves into the pattern. They must, by spiritual law, rearrange themselves into the pattern, invisible pattern, but very real. And you're holding this, the vibration of the image you're holding. If I take a piece of paper and I've got iron filings on the top of that piece of paper, and they're just random, they're just laying there until I put a magnet under this piece of paper. Now, and there's a gap between the magnet and that piece of paper. Subtly, depending on the strength of that magnet, these iron filings are either quickly or slowly, but they are going to move into a pattern that is the pattern of that magnetic field that I'm holding underneath the white piece of paper. We all know this. You can't see that field. You can't pick it up with your 5 senses, but it doesn't make it not real. It is real. That vibration of that magnetic field is real. And you and I are communing and communicating right through vibration into the field, a pattern. It's the pattern that is reflective of the dominant thinkings, the dominant feelings, the dominant ways that we're interacting and transacting with life itself. Why having a vision is so powerful, and why studying, as you're doing here, is such an exponential move for moving the patterns into more coherent versions of a life we would love living, instead of struggling with the difficulties, or struggling with our history, or struggling with what other people are thinking, or struggling with thinking that opportunities are held only by a few, or that the economy is going to dictate who I can be and what I can do, all of which will only be real if we believe they're real. So on this day, I want to just remind us in The Science of Getting Rich that Wattles says early on, he says, the most challenging thinking you and I will do is learning how to think truth in the presence of circumstances. So, I mean, you all have circumstances. I have circumstances right now. My circumstances in 2004 were challenging to me. And I began to practice what we're talking about here today at another whole level with the support of this document. One of the pieces as you study this, the first we'll talk about is thinking truth in the presence of circumstance. And the other comes in a later chapter called The Advancing Man, which is to pour more energy into the container that you've got. Whatever's going on in your, particularly in your career field, in your vocational field. You may have a position right now. Some of you are entrepreneurs. Others of you might have a where you have a certain amount of income that comes through a salary. It doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur or if you have a certain amount of money that comes through a salary. If you want to increase the flow in your life, you want to have a greater position, you want to have more income, whatever you want to increase, you pour more energy into that as if this is the means, even though you think, well, I'll have more income when I get my business to do this, or I'll have more income when I start my business, or I'll have more income when I sell my business. If I pour my energy in the spirit of it, as if this thing right here, the thing I'm doing, to make that the best success I can make it in the time that I'm in it, in the day that I'm in it, there's something that happens. The infinite, by spiritual law, if I'm pouring more energy than this container allows for, if I'm paid, $10,000 a month, and I'm pouring $15,000 of value into that work, by spiritual law, I must be promoted into a larger, expanded version of myself and my work. And you can see it happen over and over and over again as you practice this principle. But thinking truth in the presence of circumstances. He says it is the most difficult and rigorous work we will ever do, and that's why so few people actually do it. It's very easy to think on the frequency of circumstances. We've all been highly trained to, and if you listen to the average conversations that are happening, it's all about circumstances. And if only that circumstance would change, then wouldn't it be great? And then and won't I be happy when this happens? And won't it be great when that happens? And not ever knowing that if I will let it be great now, if I will let myself be grateful in the absence of what looks like I want, but in the presence of a truth, that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. It's just evidence of the absence of the current form of it, but not the absence of its potential in the world of spirit, of which it is my nature. My whole experience of life comes out of that nature. So, of course, it's a challenge to hold a vision in mind, and our life doesn't look like that. To hold a vibration and get to know that vibration, and to use our mental faculty of memory to actually memorize that frequency. You step inside that frequency, you put it on. You see yourself walking down the beach holding the hand of your loved one, who you don't even know who it is right now. You're still crawling into bed at night alone. You're still shopping for one. Easy to go to the vibration of, oh, lonely me. Like, oh, look at all those other couples. They're having what I don't want and what I don't have, and I want that. Easy to do that. And we've all been trained to operate at the level of the frequency of circumstances. But real mastery, and what Bob is teaching you, is how in the presence of circumstances you can stand in the vibration of having a life you absolutely love living. And what that does by communing and communicating from that frequency and reordering first the magnetic field and then the pattern of how the molecular structure of your life, called your results, reforms and repatterns itself in the same way the iron filings reform and repattern themselves as I put in a new magnetic field here. It's spiritual law. It works perfectly. Not you or I are powerful enough to have it work any other way. But once you learn how it works, you can work with it the way it works. It delights to give you everything you would love to have in your life. And it only works its way, which means I must be a match for what it is I say I want. Einstein said everything is energy. It can be no other way. It can be no other way. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and it must be yours. This is not philosophy, this is physics. You and I know it with our television. We pick up, turn on the television, have a remote control in our hand, and we don't sit in front of the television and beg it to get off CNN or Fox News or any other TV channel that we're not wanting to watch that anymore. We're wanting to go to Discovery or Romance or Home and Garden or Adventure channel, and we want to see a different picture. So we don't meditate to get the picture to change. We don't beg some higher power to get that picture to change. We change the frequency. You do it with your car radio. You get in, you don't like the program. You change the frequency. You do the same thing with your cell phone. You've got the wrong number. You don't want that wrong number. You want the right number. You change the frequency by what you dial in. It's the same thing here. In order to have a different picture in our lives and different results in our lives, we're not, moving pieces out there is a long, slow, dreary way to change results. But there's power in you, and there's power in me. You know, the Talmud said, every blade of grass has an angel leaning over it, whispering, grow, grow, grow. That little blade of grass all over the world today is pressing through cement, seeking the light. And there's a presence and a power because we're in a spiral universe. In a spiral universe, there's an ever upward pull of becomingness. It's everywhere present. It's pulling that little blade of grass today. It's pulling you and me towards greater aliveness, life itself, seeking a greater, freer, fuller, expanded expression and experience of itself by means of itself. That's what it's doing in a tree today, pressing to the edges of being a greater tree today. In a blade of grass, what's happening in you and me? Life wanting to express itself more fully. And it sends you signals of what your life can be. And the two signals it sends, first is longing, and the other is discontent. One expansion, one contraction. I would love that if it could. I would love, and you get an image of what you would love, or you're just, I'm so frustrated with, I don't want that struggle anymore. I want to have, and so notice those two signals and then shape a vision that answers your longing and dissolves your discontent. And that's the vision. As you revisit the vision you're holding, as you work in this amazing class with Bob Proctor, make sure your vision, if you step inside of it imaginally, it's something you would absolutely love to live in your life. And if it's not what you would absolutely love, design it so that it is, even in the absence of knowing how. Even in the absence of and sometimes it's even in the doubt, am I really going to be able to accomplish that? I can tell you that Bob Proctor has no doubt that you can accomplish anything you want to accomplish if you will follow what he's teaching you. I have borrowed that belief in my life over and over again for amazing accomplishments because Bob was steadfast in knowing the truth, even when I was wobbly. And I promise you, he is steadfast in knowing the truth for you too. So I had some things I wanted to cover with you. I think I have, other than to say that full spectrum wealth, to be a wealthy person, and we're studying the science of getting rich, what it means to be really rich is to be wealthy in every area of your life, wealthy in your health. You don't want to be wealthy in dollars and bankrupt in your health, or bankrupt in your relationships, or be wealthy in relationships and don't have the health to enjoy them, or wealthy in relationships and you're not able to travel to see the people you want to travel, or take your kids or your grandkids or your parents where you want to take them. Spirit loves freedom, and you and I are spiritual beings having a human experience. So, and I will say, people over the years have said to me, well, Mary, shouldn't I just be contented with what I have? Or shouldn't I just be grateful for what I have? And yes, we all can be extremely grateful for what we have right now. And Spirit is not done with us. As long as we're breathing, it's pressing for greater life. It's growth itself. Evidence of Spirit's presence, of life's presence, is growth. So yes, you can be 100% grateful for all the good in your life right now and still have that longing for greater, freer, fuller life. Because that's Spirit in us moving. So I think I'm open to questions. I'll stay. We got another 25 minutes here. Lisa's going to help us. I'll open up the Q&A.